marami kong naging karanasan sa pagbabasa ng energies na tinuturing ko na lamang na pangkaraniwang bagay. Minsan pa nga ay nalilimutan ko na sa paglipas ng panahon. Iba't ibang klase ng problema ang aking na-encounter. Meron sa pag-ibig at relasyon na nabibigyan ng linaw. Mga sigalot sa pamilya na ayos. Kahirapan sa pera ay pilit hinahanapan ng solusyon. Maging ang pakikipag-ugnayan sa isang namayapa na ay madalas din nangyayari. Sila na ang magsasalita. Sila na ang magpapatunay. Sila na ang magkukwento. Kwentuhang kababalaghan na may katotohanan. Ang mga kwentong ilalahad ngayon ay batay sa salaysay ng mga taong personal na nakakita at nakaranas ng mga hindi maipaliwanag na pangyayari. Nasa mga taga-subaybay ang pagpapasya kung paniniwalaan o hindi ang mga nasabing kwento.
Tent operation, yun ang procedure na ginawa nila. Naging mabilis at naging successful. Nung ma-discharge si Ric, nakauwi siya dito sa bahay, pakwento rin naman ako sa kanya kung ano ba yung nangyari. Kasi di mo maiwasan mapapaisip ka connected ba to sa ganitong bagay? O connected ba yan sa ganong sitwasyon? Pinagtagpi-tagpi ko yung kwento. Sabi niya sa akin, 12:00 ng tanghali noon, kasi lunch break niya, so pumunta siya sa gym.
I'd like to recall something that happened on the 2nd October, which was impacting on myself and also Jane and Liam and the family and friends. On Friday the 2nd of October, the day started as normal. I went to work in the morning, attended a few conference calls, Skype calls, everything was going fine. And then it came to lunchtime, 12 o'clock, where I decided to go to fitness, something that I tend to do in place of going to lunch. So I went to the fitness centre locally in Maastricht, started off with a 5-minute warm-up, and then went into a rather intense hill program on a cardio machine. And then within 1 or 2 minutes, I didn't feel so good because it appeared that I was struggling with the machine.
So nag-start siyang mag-workout. Then after 5 minutes, naging uncomfortable daw yung feeling niya. Nagpahinga siya.
And then what happened was I stopped, called over the fitness instructor, told him that I didn't feel too good, so I sat down, took some rest and some water. Made a comment to him that maybe, age is catching up on me. But he said, I know you long enough for more than 1.5 years that this wasn't the case. It's most likely stress related. So then I think after about 10 minutes decided to go home. My intention was to go home to rest, bearing in mind that I had to pick up Liam from school as well. But then I needed to stop off at work to pick up my laptop and everything.
Sabi niya dun sa instructor na hindi maganda yung pakiramdam ko kasi parang maano yung dibdib ko. Sabi niya siguro old age to. Tapos sabi ng instructor, ay hindi old age yan. May nararamdaman ka bang numbness sa arms mo? Wala naman daw. Sabi ng instructor, baka sa puso related yan. So ang ginawa ni Ric, nagpahinga siya for 10 minutes. Then after he drank some water. The afternoon, he drove back to his office to grab his laptop at saka kung ano pa yung mga gamit niya.
When I got to work, I was in the ground floor parking area. And normally I'd take the stairs, which is 2 floors.
Pagpunta niya sa office, hindi na daw siya gumamit ng hagdan. Usually, naghahagdan lang yan. So, he took the lift. Yung inside the lift daw siya, medyo napaupo yata siya or napabend. Kasi nga masikip daw, sumisikip yung dibdib niya. Then, he left the office. He drove back. He was thinking that he's going to drive back home.
In this situation, I took the lift, and while in the lift, the actual pain on my chest was increasing. It felt quite heavy on my chest. Lucky enough, when I got onto the floor where I work, everyone else was at lunch. So I just picked up my things, went to the car, and then decided to drive home.
Nung nagda-drive na daw siya, somewhere, meron dito ang somewhere na ang pangalan ay Kennedy Bridge. Sobrang bigat na daw ng pakiramdam niya para daw may nakadagan na elepante sa dibdib niya. At dun daw niya naisip na hindi ko na kaya, bibigay na ako. Ganun daw yung nasa isip niya. That was the time na tumawag ako sa kanya, nasa Kennedy Bridge pala siya. And that was 12:35 ng tanghali.
Looking back on how I was feeling at that time, it was only when Jane called and I was coming over the other side of Kennedy Bridge was that there was something seriously wrong with me. I wasn't sure how I was feeling and how serious this was, and what the outcome would be. My intention was just to go home and to rest for a few hours and thinking everything would be okay.
It so happened na itong Kennedy Bridge is napakalapit din sa work ko. Kasi kung magdadrive pa siya from Kennedy Bridge pa uwi sa amin, aabutin pa siguro ng mga 10-12 minutes, ganon. So pagbabala ng Kennedy Bridge, ikot lang siya parang napakalapit na nun sa trabaho ko. Tapos yung trabaho ko naman, paglabas mo, dalakad ka lang ng diretso, siguro wala pang 1 or 2 minutes siguro yun, kung mabilis ka maglakad. Sa pinaka, may may roundabout. Nandun naman yung pinaka-clinic. At ang pangalan ng clinic is St. Peter's. It's a Dutch name, no? Pero sa English, rin siya, equivalent din siya sa St. Peter. Yun yung pinuntahan namin clinic. Napakalapit. So lahat ng pangyayari nun napakabilis.
I was taken to Maastricht Hospital by ambulance, then taken into the operating theatre, where they immediately started an operation on me. I wasn't sedated. No anaesthetic. They put a balloon, and they fed a balloon through my wrist, up my arm towards my heart, and then noticed, during the sort of pre-investigations and checks and everything, they noticed that one of the main arteries to the heart was clogged and blocked. So obviously the course of action was to unblock this, and by feeding a balloon through my veins, through the artery, to open it up and then put a stent in. At that time, I wasn't scared, I was awake, I was watching the operation on 6 video screens. I didn't feel, at that time that my life was in danger, especially because I was awake watching the operation go through its paces.
Ric's operation took 45 minutes. Ganun kadali. At walang anesthesia. Hindi na siya binigyan ng anesthesia. Ang ginawa nila is merong wire na manipis daw na ipinasok sa daliri niya na diretso sa artery ng heart. It's balloon. So pinalobo para makuha yung clot. Tapos yung clot parang ganito kahaba. So that time, napakabilis ng pangyayari. Lahat sobrang bilis. Akala mo yung nasa pelikula Sunod-sunod yung, parang domino.
Shortly after the operation was done, I was then moved into medium care for a few days for monitoring and checks and given various medications. On the Friday evening, I must admit I did struggle sleeping, and this was caused by the pain that I still had on my chest, most likely caused by the operation itself. And it wasn't until about 3 o'clock in Saturday morning that I finally got to sleep. And then round about 10 o'clock Saturday morning, the pain had gone away. And then, I was just being monitored, cared for by the hospital staff. On the Friday when I first started experiencing chest pains and breathing difficulties, it felt like there was an elephant on my chest. And then, while in the operating theatre, once they unclogged the artery, it was like it was a relief that I was getting better extremely, rather quickly, and the operating procedure only took about 45 minutes. So it's quite surprising that at one moment, I was struggling with chest pains and breathing difficulties. And then, as soon as I unclogged the artery, I was, in a certain extent, back to normal. I was cared for, placed into medium care. On the Sunday afternoon, the doctors decided that I was okay to go back into a normal ward. I was no longer in any form of danger. The medication was working okay. My blood pressure, cholesterol levels, heartbeat and everything was stabilised and back to extremely good measurements.
Tapos yun nga, nung nandito na si Rick sa bahay, nagkukwentuhan kami, nabanggit niya nga sa akin na yung nurse na nag-a-assist sa kanya nung nasa hospital siya, ang pangalan ay Peter. Sinabihan din siya noon na tsaka ng mga doktor na napakaswerte niya kasi sa ganung klaseng attack, walang nabubuhay. Bigyan ko kayo ng short background ulit. Sabi kasi may 3 klase ng heart attacks daw. May tinatawag silang STEMI, may end-STEMI at saka yung sa angina. Sa 3 yun, STEMI yung pinaka-dangerous or pinaka-deadliest na attack. At yun yung nangyari kay Rick. Ang window lang daw na ibibigay sa inyo para mabuhay ay 1 oras. Kaya pag-iisipin mo, nakakapangilabot kasi talagang that day, miracle happened. Tawag nga nila sa heart attack na yun is the widowmaker heart attack. Kasi wala daw talagang binubuhay yun. Yun din yung sabi ng nurse na si Peter na nag-alaga sa kanya. Sabi nga, maswerte ka kasi nakaligtas ka, nakasurvive ka.
While in the medium care, one of the sort of main nurses, male nurse, was a guy called Peter, and he explained to me that I was quite lucky that I actually got through the operation because we discussed our ages and everything, and he said, you're lucky to still be sitting here today because a lot of people that undergo the same experiences, health difficulties, even after an operation, do not make it. I remember the doctor that was dealing with me at the time. She said that there's no real explanation as to why what caused this because there are family illnesses that get passed on through families. Got family history with liver, heart problems, cholesterol problems, so that gets carried through. You've got all the private, personal and work stress issues, but also cholesterol, if you've got high cholesterol count as well. So all these factors contribute to what happened on that Friday. And he said, well, it could have been a different outcome, but as I say, a lot of people have come through it, and there are many that have failed to make it to the stage that I did.
So kumbaga parang dun ko na naisip na kung pagtatagpi-tagpiin ko yung mga pangyayari, parang may connection siya sa panaginip ko, doon sa prayer ko, nung bago ako mag-start mag-work. Kasi sa panaginip ko, ang sabi ni Peter, "This will protect you, I will protect you." So area ng kung nasaan yung clinic, kung saan kami tumakbo, ang tawag dun sa area na yon ay St. Peter. Kumbaga dun sa small village na yon, ang tawag dun ay St. Peter. Yung naman, yung clinic, kung saan siya dinala, ang tawag naman ay St. Peter din. It's called St. Peter in Dutch, pero sa English, St. Peter. Dito kasi sa Netherlands, hindi ka pwedeng dumirekta agad sa hospital pag may nararamdaman ka. Each city or a little bit smaller than the city, you have to go to your GP. Nandun lahat ng records nyo, tapos kung may mga problems, sila ang magre-refer sa inyo sa hospital. Unless pag nasa bahay ka na, and then something really happened, and you cannot go to your GP, tatawag ka na sa ambulance. Yung tawag nilang 112, and then doon na dadating yung rescue.
So I left work and started driving home, but I didn't notice that my driving wasn't as good as what it normally is because I wasn't focusing and seemed to be struggling, concentrating I then drove over Kennedy Bridge, which is a bridge that goes over the River Mars in Maastricht, and then around about 12:30, Jane called me, and she noticed that things weren't too well with me health-wise, and asked what was wrong, and I explained that I was struggling breathing, and then she said, "Well, get to the Hausarzt, which is the local GP over here, and I'll meet you there." So I then made my way to the Hausarzt, which was a few minutes away, and then we went inside and then saw my local GP, and then the doctor and the assistant then decided this was a serious case, and they immediately phoned the ambulance services.
12th of October, bumalik na ako sa work. Sabi ng boss ko, okay ka na ba Jane? Mga ganon, kwentuhan kami. Oo naman. Pag may extra time ka, pakiilinis mo ulit yung chapel. Sabi ko, okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to it talaga na maglinis. At mag-pray ako ulit, mag-thank you ako. So pagpasok ko ng chapel, nagulat ako, Diyos ko, parang yung feeling na na-shock talaga ako doon sa nakita ko kasi pagtingin ko. Kasi, nung October 2, pumunta ako doon, sabi ko nga, merong parang kwadro na nandun si Virgin Mary at saka yung may hawak siya na bata sa tabi niya. Tapos, meron ngang sculpture na parang sculpture siya ng yung may hawak nga na sword. Pagbalik ko nung Monday, wala yun doon. Sabi ko, ano nangyari? So, ang ginawa ko, tumakbo na naman ako sa boss ko. Akala niya mayroon na namang emergency. Sabi ko, Yvonne, yung angel. Sabi ko, nawawala. Sabi niya, anong angel? Sabi ko, yung may hawak na sword. Sabi niya, yung angel na may hawak na sword, si ano yun si Saint Michael, the Archangel. Wala namang Saint Michael dyan. Never nagkaroon ng Saint Michael dyan. Sabi niya, yan lang lagi sa sacristy, yan lang yung si Virgin Mary ang nakalagay dyan. Tapos pareho kaming nangilabot. Kasi hindi ako pwedeng magkamali na-imagine ko lang yon. Hindi rin pwedeng sabihin na siguro dahil sa nangyari kay Rick, nakapag-isip ako ng yung pumasok sa isip ko. Kasi hindi pa nangyayari kay Rick yun 9:30 ako nag-pray. 12:30 ko nakausap si Rick. So, napaka-imposible. I don't know. Feasts nila. So, talaga sigurong that time, yung mga angels nakinig sa prayers. Si Saint Michael the Archangel, bumaba from heaven para protektahan si Rick. At nandyan din si Peter para protektahan ako.
But the strange thing is I've had the operation. I'm now out of hospital. My body feels completely different. It's like you've just bought a brand new car, or you've got a car that's gone in for a major service and all of the major parts have been replaced. Yeah, and your body is functioning like a finely tuned engine. I mean, I've got no breathing difficulties. There's no heavy breathing. I don't snore anymore. I just feel my body feels completely different, a lot more healthy compared to what it was prior to to what happened on the 2nd of October. Given that I'm 58 years old, soon to be 59, my body doesn't feel like a 59-year-old.
2nd of October was the Feast of the Angels. Yun din yung araw na inatake sa puso si Rick. 4 days before nangyari yun, napanaginipan ko si Peter. Sinabi niya sa panaginip ko na hindi niya ako pababayaan, na poprotektahan niya ako. Before atakihin si Rick nung October 2, nagdasal ako sa chapel at doon ko nakita yung statue ni Saint Michael the Archangel. Nag-check din ako, nalaman ko na ang guardian angel ni Rick, because he was born on the 22nd of October, and it's Saint Michael the Archangel. During the attack, tumakbo kami sa area na ang pangalan ay Saint Peter. Dinala si Rick sa clinic and he was given first aid, and the name of the clinic is Saint Peter. Kinuha siya ng ambulance, dinala siya sa hospital, naging successful ang operation and recovery. And during his stay at the hospital, Yung nurse na nag-alaga sa kanya, ang pangalan ay Peter.
I left Maastricht, or was discharged from Maastricht Hospital on the Tuesday morning. Quite surprisingly, on the Wednesday, because I wasn't allowed to drive the car for 1 month, we had to take Liam to school with the local bus service, which we did. However, because there's only one bus returning back home once an hour, we then had to walk into Maastricht. That also took 1 hour walking. Quite surprisingly, once we got into Maastricht, I wasn't out of breath. No breathing difficulties, no chest pains, no pains in my legs or anything. So it's quite unbelievable that after such a short space of time with what happened, I was back up and running, doing things that I most probably shouldn't be doing. I'm happy with that. To close, I'd like to thank all the hospital staff, Peter, the male nurse, and all the other nurses supporting him, the doctors, the surgeons, and everyone that cared for me during my stay. I'd also like to thank our Peter, our guardian angel, St. Michael, the Archangel. Special thanks to Star for everything that she's done for Jane, done for myself in helping us both and Liam, and all the family and friends across the globe that's been praying for us and helping me to be, where I am now. And a special thanks to God for this new life.
Thank you, Peter, kasi hindi mo kami pinabayaan. Alam ko na somehow, prinotektahan mo ako, prinotektahan mo si Ric. Thank you, St. Michael, the Archangel, for also protecting Ric and keeping him away from danger. And thank you, Star, for the prayers at napakalaking tulong. And above all, thank you, God, for the second life of Ric and for giving him the second chance to live.
Kwentuhang kababalaghan na may katotohanan.